When she first pushed open the heavy glass door of the gun store, the bell above it gave a sharp ring that drew every head in the room toward her. A young woman, dressed simply and carrying herself with calm confidence, stepped inside. At first glance, she didn't look like someone who belonged there. The regulars, men who spent their weekends polishing rifles or comparing handguns, looked her up and down and chuckled under their breath. Some whispered jokes, others smirked openly, as if her very presence was amusing. To them, she was an outsider, a curious visitor who would probably fumble with the weapon and walk out embarrassed. But what they didn't know was that within the next hour, everything about their assumptions would turn upside down. She didn't say much at first. Instead, she quietly observed the walls lined with different models, her eyes sharp and thoughtful. The store owner asked what she was looking for, expecting a vague or unsure answer. But instead, she responded with precision, naming a particular firearm with a steady voice, surprising him enough to raise an eyebrow. The laughter in the background grew louder. Someone even joked that maybe she was choosing it for decoration. Still, she ignored them, her focus unwavering. As the minutes passed, she moved with a quiet determination, examining, questioning, and demonstrating knowledge that seemed out of place for someone they had judged so quickly. With every word and action, she began to shift the mood in the room, though many still laughed, unwilling to admit their curiosity. Something about her calm composure hinted that she wasn't just another customer. She was there for a reason, one that no one in that store could have guessed. By the time the clock struck an hour, the smirks had faded, the jokes had dried up, and the same people who had laughed when she walked in now stood frozen in silence. What happened in that short span of time was something they would never forget, and this was only the beginning. The silence in the store was heavy, though no one wanted to admit why. Just an hour earlier, they had dismissed her as a stranger with no place among them. Now, even the most confident regulars were exchanging uneasy glances. Something about the way she had handled herself unsettled them, not because she had shown off, but because she had done everything with such quiet certainty, as if she had been preparing for this moment long before she ever set foot inside. She didn't brag, didn't try to prove anything. Instead, her movement spoke for her. Every time she picked something up, she handled it with care and respect, as though it wasn't just a tool, but something she deeply understood. The store owner, who had been working in the business for decades, found himself asking questions he normally would ask professionals. Her answers were calm, precise, and strangely personal, as if each choice connected to something from her past. The men who had laughed earlier shifted uncomfortably. Who was she? Where had she learned all of this? No one dared to ask, but the questions hung in the air like smoke. Her eyes revealed little, yet every glance carried weight, as though she was measuring not just the items in the shop, but the people too. One detail stood out, the small notebook she carried. Every now and then she would jot something down, brief notes in quick handwriting that no one could quite catch. It wasn't the usual behavior of a curious shopper. It hinted at something deeper, something deliberate. The laughter from earlier seemed foolish now, but the unease wasn't just about being wrong. It was about the growing sense that she had come here with a purpose, and that purpose was still a mystery waiting to unfold. The room seemed to hold its breath, though life outside the store carried on as usual. Inside, however, every eye stayed on her, even when people pretended not to stare. She continued with the same calm energy, moving through the aisles with quiet focus. The same men who had once laughed now leaned forward, listening more closely than they intended. It wasn't just what she knew, it was the way she carried herself, as if each step and each decision were part of a larger plan. The store owner tried to make small talk, asking where she was from, but she dodged the question with a polite smile. Her answers revealed little about her background, yet hinted at experience most of them couldn't place. Every sentence seemed to walk a fine line, giving enough to hold their attention, but never enough to satisfy their curiosity. There was something in the way she paused before speaking, as though she measured her words carefully, leaving gaps that pulled others deeper into her silence. It wasn't long before someone whispered a guess. Maybe she had family in the service. Maybe she had trained somewhere far from here. The theories spread quietly, none confirmed, none denied. The little notebook in her hand only made the mystery grow. She flipped through it between her questions, scribbling quickly as if keeping track of details no one else could see. To the casual eye, it might have looked ordinary, but to those watching, it seemed to hold answers they couldn't begin to imagine. The air inside the store was different now. Curiosity had replaced the earlier mockery, but it came with an edge of unease. They didn't just want to know who she was, they needed to know, and the longer she stayed, the clearer it became that her presence was not by chance. The clock on the wall ticked louder than before, each second stretching into silence that seemed to press down on the room. By now, no one was laughing. The joking faces from earlier had turned serious, their eyes locked on her every move. She stood at the counter, her notebook open, her hand steady as she made one final note. The store owner cleared his throat, his voice lower than usual when he asked, "Is there something specific you're preparing for?" She looked up slowly, her gaze sweeping across the room. For a moment, no one moved. There was something in her eyes that unsettled them. Not anger, not fear, but a calm strength that made them shift in their seats. She didn't answer directly, only gave the kind of quiet smile that held more meaning than words. That single gesture left the entire store buzzing with questions they didn't dare ask out loud. Then she walked towards the display in the back, the one no casual shopper usually noticed. The floor creaked under her steps, and the air seemed to tighten with every movement. The regulars exchanged quick glances, some leaning forward, others stiffening in place. They were used to being the ones in control here, the experts, the voices of authority. Now it felt as if they were the audience, watching something unfold they couldn't predict. Her hands moved with absolute certainty as she examined what others often overlooked. The store grew so quiet that even the faint hum of the ceiling light felt louder. Every second added to the tension, building towards something none of them could quite name. They could feel it, though. The shift, the moment before something important happens. And as she closed her notebook and placed it firmly on the counter, the air seemed to freeze. Something was about to be revealed, and none of them were ready for it. The notebook on the counter drew every eye in the room. It wasn't just the way she placed it, it was the weight of the moment, the unspoken message that something inside it mattered. The store owner reached for it out of habit, but she gently slid it back toward herself, a subtle move that carried unexpected authority. No one questioned her, though everyone wanted to. Then came the twist no one saw coming. From the front door, a man in uniform stepped inside. His presence changed the atmosphere instantly. The laughter that once filled this place was long gone, but now it was replaced by something else, tension so sharp it could be felt in the air. He wasn't a stranger to some of them. A few regulars straightened in their seats, recognizing his rank and realizing this was no coincidence. The woman didn't flinch. She met his eyes with the same calm she had shown since walking in. What unsettled everyone most was the way he responded, not with questions or authority, but with a slight nod of respect. That single gesture froze the room even more than her silence had. Suddenly, the theories whispered earlier about her past, her training, her purpose, didn't feel like wild guesses anymore. The man spoke briefly to her, his words too quiet for the rest to hear, but the effect was immediate. She listened intently, then closed the notebook with deliberate care. The regulars leaned forward, desperate to catch even a fragment of the exchange. Whatever was happening between them was more than casual conversation. It carried weight, urgency, and something bigger than anyone in that store could grasp. In that moment, the stakes shifted completely. She was no longer just a mystery. They all realized she was part of something far larger. And whatever it was about to change everything. The room was still, as if the walls themselves were listening. The man in uniform stepped closer, and this time his voice was clear enough for everyone to hear. "It's confirmed," he said firmly. "You're cleared to move forward." The words carried weight, but no one in the store understood what they meant. All they saw was the way she nodded, calm and steady, as though she had been preparing for this moment all along. Whispers rippled through the regulars. The same people who had laughed at her earlier now sat frozen, their eyes wide, trying to piece it all together. The store owner leaned forward, his curiosity overcoming his hesitation, but she quickly closed it again, her expression unreadable. Then, in a moment that silenced every thought in the room, the man in uniform turned, not to her, but to the crowd. You all judged her before you knew her, but today you've witnessed what few ever get to see. His words made the regulars shift uncomfortably, each one recalling their earlier laughter. Their pride was gone, replaced by something closer to awe. She finally broke her silence, her voice calm yet commanding. I didn't come here for approval. I came here for confirmation. Her words cut through the tension, leaving everyone stunned. Just as it seemed the mystery was solved, she added quietly, but this isn't the last time you'll see me here. The final twist landed like thunder. Whatever mission she was preparing for, it wasn't over. It was only just beginning.